A regular meeting with an amended agenda with the Board of Selectmen, December 17th at 5:30 p.m. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes is the next item on the agenda. So that was our December 3rd.
On the December 3rd minutes, I'll make a motion that we approve them with one question. On page 6, reappointing Tina Benheimer effective January 1st, 2018. What was that? 2019, I assume.
Yes,
Okay.
it was January
Should be
2019 to December
2019. I make a motion to approve the minutes with that correction.
I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, new business. So we have an appointment.
You gonna do the December 10th meetings?
Yeah, I have the template.
We can. They're not in here that time.
Yeah.
Okay. This is our special meeting last week.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of December 10th meeting as written.
Second.
Seconded by Liza. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we move on to an appointment. So I move to reappoint Anne Marie Poole as a regular member of the WIllington Zoning Board of Appeals effective December 31st, 2018, expiring December 30th, 2019.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry, I'm going to take this one. Okay. And I move to refund, oh boy,
Lindsay Ozell.
Lindsay Ozell, we'll go with that. I apologize for the pronunciation, a certificate of correction in the amount of $36.11.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So, the next item was discussing the revenue collector position. So you asked for some information, which I shared to you. Hopefully you had some time to look at it before tonight. In your packet, you can see an outline of the positions. The union signifies if they're in the union, and then the salary, the current salary. Some of those salary line items may include their longevity payments. And so if they receive a longevity payment, it's included in that salary dollar amount. So you can see what they are across the board. The other items that I included for you is a very nice summary left to me by my predecessor. It's very helpful. Summer responsibilities, and that kind of gives you an overview of all the departments, all of the hours they work. There were some minor changes between when this was written and now, and I altered. Those like the town clerk is now appointed. They're still 30 hours a week, but it's not a stipend, it's a salary. If there are any changes, I made them in there so it gives you an idea of what their roles and responsibilities are and how they answer. And then I gave you some background information on the salary of the revenue collector. So where we were to recap, the request was made once the assistant revenue collector left to make that position full-time to 35 hours a week. with an increased salary. So this reflects, this 51,170 reflects what would be if we were to increase to 35 hours and increase the salary. And the bottom number you see is if it were the 2%, if that were to be carried across the department heads, that is in the contract for union employees. The union, all of our union employees will get 2% this year, typically, I say, because that could change, your department heads would receive, or everyone else would receive the same 2%, but that has yet to be determined.
You have a double star up here, says negotiated when hired in, but then we're,
Yeah, there's, sorry, I meant to delete that, that's why it's highlighted. So just so that you know, this amount was, it wasn't the normal increase because it was negotiated, so you just don't see the details of that.
okay, and,
When she was hired, there were things that were negotiated,
okay,
and that's what reflects that increase above and beyond the normal. In that year, it would have been a 2.95% based on the contract.
okay.
So, the majority of others, I won't say everyone because there may have been other new hires in that particular calendar year, but in her case, instead of getting the 2.9% increase, there were other things. Last year was an 11.3% increase when we brought the salary line item up. This proposed increase would make it, yes, it's 5 more hours a week to full-time, but it would be a 19% increase.
And as was originally proposed that it would, it was because we were saving so much money, we are not saving money. Once again, just because you move a payment from one line item to another line item does not mean you're saving the town money. You're having one line item spending less, the other line item spending more. Do we know exactly how much this is going to cost? This would cost the town? When we take this increase, is going to be the increase that it's going to cost the town then?
This would be what it would cost the town.
Because the other position presumably would remain at the same,
It would actually be less because someone new would be coming in at step 1 of the contract.
but they'd
Where Nancy was not.
catch up there originally.
They would catch up, it's 3 years, but they would catch up there, but not in that first year. So there would be some savings between the new hire and the person that was in that role before. But with this,
Likely eaten up by that.
absolutely.
Oh, definitely.
It's significant. I look at it as we have one of 3 options, really. We can agree on this proposed, moving from 30 to 35 hours a week and increase the salary to go with those extra hours. We can leave it at 30 hours a week and at the salary it's at now, assuming there would be that potential 2% savings. Or we could increase it from 30 to 35 and leave the salary where it is.
And then if we go with option number 2, this is assuming, I take it, that we leave the assistant position where it is now. As working for the revenue collector.
I think I said last week, I don't see how we could leave it the way it was, knowing she doesn't need someone for 22 hours a week.
But she needs somebody for some time. We also had talked about somebody else up there who could use some help from time to time. And used to get that help from the assessor's position, or the assistant assessor's position. We did not carry that over to currently, so I'm not
Correct.
sure.
The person at the time who was the assistant assessor,
Right,
those in the front row would agree with me, was very She had been here a long time. She was familiar with every department. She could do multiple jobs. There was a difference between her and someone else who's here. When Carol was in that
Yeah.
position, Carol had been here for a number of years and could wear many hats without hesitation.
She also spent 5 dedicated hours a week.
Doing something other than the assessor's
Yeah,
office.
yeah. But I think Robin had 5 less hours. I'm not sure. I don't
I
remember.
think then Robin was 35.
Yeah. That's why she went up to 40 when Carol left. Can I say something?
Please identify yourself for the record.
Christina Milos. Do you have to give them 22 hours if you replaced Nancy? Because I don't think there's anything that says it has to be.
It doesn't have to be.
And if it's less than 20, you save a lot because they don't need benefits.
We do.
So I just wanted to throw that out there,
I-
just to confuse you more,
Yes.
make it harder.
I think unfortunately, and you know, that everyone here is pretty much stretched thin, and that Lisa has made that department very efficient and doesn't need it, but there are many other departments who could use some assistance, who could really use someone all the time. So I think those hours could be, there's plenty of work to go around just outside of that office.
Yeah.
Kim Kowalish. So I just have a couple questions, like, so I know that Lisa's very efficient, but what happens if she gives her notice next week and she leaves? Is the next tax project that comes in gonna be as
Well,
efficient?
that's one of my concerns.
Or what if she breaks a leg and she's not gonna be here for the next 3 months? So I was thinking that instead of doing a floater position, what if you reorganized work? Like I read in the minutes, one of the things was the Wellington Wire, Maureen could use help with the Wellington Wire. Who says that the Wellington Wire has to be the responsibility of the rec director? Why couldn't that be part of the tax department and they do it? And in that position, they would still be covering, they would still be there, but they would just have different work.
Right. So I look at that position as something a little bit different, and that could be a few dedicated hours in the tax office. It could be lots of other things that don't have to be the rec director, because that's the first thing I said, is the Wellington Wire is something Maureen's been doing, but she doesn't have to. But I have the same concerns. Lisa is very efficient, and that works when Lisa is our revenue collector. So without an assistant there, the position is not being eliminated, so that in the event we had to make a change, those things could happen if we choose to go with the floater position. I'm hesitant to make any department just one person because they're all so.
How many one-person departments do we have?
Parks and Rec is one, yours is one,
Jenny,
Jenny.
Robin, and they're all
Jenny's
full-time?
not really one, she does have an assistant 2 days a week, so technically she's not one.
Are they 35, 40 hours, or 30 hours part-time?
Her assistant is part-time, it's much less
No,
than
the
2
department
days.
heads, the single department heads, are those full-time positions or part-time?
Parks and Rec is 35 hours a week.
So this
Yeah.
would be the only department, single department with one person at 30 hours part-time.
So here's part of the challenge that I'm having with the conversation, is that you suggested we not have an additional person in that office. And now are suggesting that because we don't have an additional person in that office, we need to increase your hours. I know, and we've had this conversation a couple of times. I don't know how else I can understand it differently than if we need those extra 5 hours, we should not be eliminating this position.
Then that's fine, don't limit the position. The whole idea was when I spoke to Erica originally, she said I'm open to 35 hours a week, and I just ran with that.
Well, I didn't say it was open to 35 hours a week, you said you didn't need an assistant. And to be honest, the discussion didn't come up until more recent, the 35 hours a week. And we had that conversation where you assumed that I would be on board for you doing more hours, but that wasn't an open discussion in the beginning. That you were going to do more hours, and you
Started
said,
at
right,
the
and you
beginning.
said, why would I do more for the same amount? Well, I thought, what a bargain. And again, I'm not in the position to say we have unlimited amount of funds. let's bring your position
No,
to more
I-
hours and more money.
I was trying to find efficiency to help.
Right,
out
and you
those
did
other
find an
departments.
efficiency, and I
But I do.
value the work that you do, but I'm having a hard time with the salary implications, because I don't know that we can sustain these kinds of numbers. This is just one department. If we know we have issues with our salaries across the board, how can we possibly?
Then just keep it as is, and just get an assistant and change the work scope.
So I think sort of a hybrid of the options is what I think might make the most sense, is instead of dedicating a 22-hour-a-week assistant, I say we go with the town hall assistant idea and dedicate the 5 hours a week that's needed to cover the hours in the assessor position. If that's the amount.
Revenue collection.
Sorry, there are a lot of boards in front of me.
There are.
The revenue collection tax collector position as the 30 hours and continue with this position as proposed as the floater, but have them dedicate some time and have very specific responsibilities in the tax collection office.
So similar to Peggy serves in 2 different positions, X number of hours in one and X in the other. Like 5 hours a week as the assistant tax collector, the rest of the time, which was similar to what Carol was doing. She was just the opposite, most of her time as the assistant assessor, 5 hours a week in the other role.
So then I think we can figure out what hours will be required in the tax collector as the assistant tax collector. What hours are required? Is it 5, is it 8, is it 10? And then fill in the other duties to surround that position. But I agree, I think in looking at the increases in the salary for just this position over the last few years, I think it's a really hard thing to justify at this point for the other staff in the building, as well as just financially for the town, especially when we have that part-time position that has been on the table the whole time.
I mean, there are probably various things the floater could do all throughout the building, but the main use I would see for that would be helping Robin out, because Robin is the one who's really overwhelmed, I think at times, with what she's doing.
I think you might have some others that would disagree that they have just as much.
Well, that may be, I don't know. But we have gotten along so far here. You know, here we go back to what I said last time. Don't fix it if it ain't broke. And things are working. Now, yes, maybe some people are overwhelmed. The one I see overwhelmed is Robin. Maybe other people are overwhelmed here too. I don't know, no matter what we do, everybody's gonna feel that way, that they have too much to do, and, that they need help.
I just wanted to give a little history, and maybe you remember this, John. When I first started, it was 2009, and that's when the market like fell out, and we had to do like serious things in the budget. And one thing was, we took out all the fill-in help, like every department had, I think it was 3 hours a week was budgeted for fill-in help, and then that was drawn on for vacation fill-ins and things like that. And it was quite a bit of money, like when you added up all the different departments, and we didn't even use it all, and that ended up being slush fund money. And so it was decided we didn't need that. But that was there all those years, and it's people who were working here back then, like remember it, like they could get someone to fill in for them on vacations, which took a lot of stress off, because there really is no backup, and there's no way around unless everybody kind of does this whole thing that they're doing. So I don't know, we never got back to it, never came back around that it was a good year to put it back in. So
Still waiting for that good year.
yeah, but maybe now like part of this solution could solve for some of that. I don't know, because it really is a stress on everyone.
It is, and I think, John, you just don't see, I think people are really, you see Robin more than you see other people.
Yeah.
And I think others, some, I can think of at least one who takes their work home with them. And because there is no assistant and there is no other time, and we do what we have to do, but there are a lot more things we could be doing if there were more help. Just because we see what has to get done doesn't mean that there's not other work to be done. Something is always left behind or more could be done, but there just aren't people for it. So I think you're just not seeing all the other people that could benefit. It's not just,
So can there be a list
Robin.
of what that other person does and they just work in the revenue office? Keep the funds where they are and just change the scope of the work description?
absolutely.
Well,
We,
my thought originally was to have this person operate in the same way that Carol did, where they work in the revenue office, doing the same thing that Nancy was doing, and if there is this extra time, that's extra time when they could go over and maybe fill in
and
for.
that assistant could be that same person.
Yeah.
And that's their home base is out of the
Yeah.
revenue collector's office. But there just isn't, enough work for it to be in the position that it is right now. But again, if Lisa's gone, that could look very different.
You know, and I could just swap the desk around and I'm mostly at the window, and if they're doing WIllington wire or whatever it may be, they won't be bothered.
I think that seems like the most logical.
Right, I see where Lisa's coming from with the request, I hear it all, and I value the work she does, I just don't think with just one position we can sustain these kinds of increases. Because you asked for the bigger picture across the board, so you can see where everyone else is at.
So.
It's good, the land use position is going to come around again, when it's not the contracted service it is now, and that is well out of the norm with their, in that particular line of work, we're nowhere near the ballpark of what we can get for quality in that department. And we knew that going in. This is not, no one's surprised to hear this. But outside of this board and our budget, when it goes forward, it's helping others see the value and having the funds to increase those salaries. And we just haven't been there lately. We don't know where, and we have no idea what our state's funding is going to look like. We have no clue. We have no guideline. Lamont doesn't have a track record that we could even take a guess on to say this is what he's typically done, this is what it might look like. So we could have another year where we take another hit to our funding.
So what do we do at this point? Do we have to make any sort of formal motions if we're not effectively changing anything? Or do we just?
No, I don't think we would. We're gonna go with the same thing. Might have to rewrite the
This?
job description
Yeah.
a bit to.
This one that the union agreed on with me today, because you wanted to take them separately. Okay,
Well,
no, that's fine. So we'll work on this again and go back to the same understanding that this person will be, and you want it to stay under as an assistant revenue collector position?
Well, makes sense to me.
Or should you make it a revenue clerk versus an assistant? Assistant would mean they'd have to get certified typically.
That is a different wrinkle that I didn't think of. To be honest, I don't see why we can't keep this as this, but just with specified designated hours towards the assessors. Sorry, I keep doing that. The revenue collector's office.
They have to get certified, but
They don't have
They
to
don't
get
have to be
certified,
certified.
it just is a normal progression.
Right.
If you
Yeah.
are an assistant tax collector,
so
you're
they can,
gold.
so they
Might be
can
on
be
track to
hired
become
without
a
being
revenue
certified.
Oh,
collector.
absolutely.
It's not-
Well, then that's different than, I
It's
don't
not a
know,
requirement.
I'm feeling a little thrown off a couple of
Because that way, if they,
thought processes.
if we get somebody who has ambitions in that
Right, that they could
field, then
potentially
we
move up.
could arrange for them to get certified as time went on.
But that's not a requirement.
Right.
But it
Not a
benefits the
requirement.
town if they
Right.
are, so.
Right.
Yes,
It benefits the town in
there's
that
a
if
very
the
delicate
tax,
balance
if
here
the
of benefiting
tax
the town.
collector
I'm
leaves,
seeing.
Yeah.
then you have someone who's
Yes.
certified to now be your revenue collector, which we're concerned about not having someone in that position. But again, it's hard to hear, I don't have 22 hours of work for someone, and still put someone in there, in that same position, who doesn't have the work to do. I can do it all myself.
So what did Nancy do for 16 hours of time every week? I'm confused. Was she just sat there and twiddled her thumbs for 16 hours? There's only 5 hours worth of work to do, and she worked 22 hours a week?
I think she gave her more work because she was there and has been saying when she's gone, I can do all of that. I won't take two people, which is, it's efficient and good to hear, but it's concerning to me that if we have someone who's not working and as a department head, it's their role to make sure there is work. If that's not inside that office, what else can we do to be keeping busy?
Right.
And I don't want to see somebody in there now that we know there's not that amount of work to do.
They don't have to be there 22 though.
They don't have to be there 22.
That's what I'm saying.
They don't have to be,
Right?
they don't have
Is
to
that
be in
not
that
like-
office
like you
22,
could
right?
have
If we
it
go under
12
20
hours,
hours,
yeah.
there's no benefits.
Yeah.
But
No, I'm saying like,
But she also needs someone, definitely the tax office needs help during those busy times.
December, January.
Our tax collector doesn't believe she needs it December and January.
so
Well, hopefully
Like
she's
what?
not out.
That's what I say.
what I'm
Yeah.
suggesting is,
And we can't just, the first suggestion is that we go out and just get temps for June, July, and August, to which I said that's not an option. To eliminate a union position, we go out and hire. So,
And what about
Continue.
vacation coverage? I mean, that's the thing.
that's where
You
this.
can't
this
just close
is-
it down.
No,
That's why we need this person.
this assistant.
I agree.
I think it'll work this way. There may be some trouble if she, doesn't want to let her go at a certain time, or, Robin needs help at a certain time, but we'll deal with that when it comes. I don't know if we ever had that problem when Carol was up there. I don't think we did we?
Not that I heard, but again,
No.
we'd be seeking someone from outside of here, and Carol's well versed in most of town hall functions.
Yeah.
So it was a lot easier for her to take over things. And this person could get to that point, but it would take a bit. Liza?
yeah, so, I don't know. I think we're all kind of saying the same thing. We don't need somebody for 22 hours. Let's figure out exactly how many hours this person would do. So maybe it's 10, and the other 12 are assigned elsewhere. Right, like, to me, we leave the 30 hours a week for the revenue collector. Have this town hall assistant be essentially a half-time position, and half of that is in the revenue collection office, and then the other half is assigned elsewhere.
It would be
Because I
this-
agree, I don't think we can take a 22-hour position and assign it solely into an office where there has been, the department has said, I don't need 22 hours.
I can't
Yet
let
we have
here,
others who
I don't have 22 hours worth of work
need
for
help.
someone after that.
But you could reorganize the workload
Yes,
from other departments.
yes.
Right, with the 12 hours or
Right.
whatever, that isn't during.
When I
planning
said we
departments.
couldn't, because John said it's not broke, let's just put it back in and go with the way we're going, I can't do that because that's, we've been told we don't have work, so I don't think there's mysteriously going to be work from that department.
So then I think the only thing that has to happen is just specifying that. and
Okay. All right,
Right?
so as far as altering the revenue collector position, we're going to leave it at 30 hours a week
Yep.
and just make changes to the assistant.
Yes.
Assistant position. All right, back to the drawing board.
Sorry.
The second item was the request from the office manager to decrease her hours from 40 to 35 a week.
Mm-hmm.
and the suggestion had been made to make her a salary. I did say look into that. Before Robin came on board, her predecessor was 35 hours a week in salary. Robin started at 30 hours a week, or did she start at 35?
I think it was 30.
I think it was 30, and then she went to 35, and then things got
Crazy,
crazy.
yes.
There was a gun range.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff going on, and she was increased to 40, but hourly at all that time. The suggestion was made by a member of this board to change the position to salary and not hourly, which it had been in the past, and I don't know what the thought process was when it was changed back, because it wasn't myself or Christine who made that change. It was the selectmen prior to either of us, that when they put out the position, when Robin took it, it was now hourly and not salary.
We had changed, well, Robin, first of all, she changed from being in secretary to being the administrative
Assistant.
assistant, which, that's the time we changed.
I'm sorry, I'll recap, is that we decided to leave your position right where it is and look at the assistant position for office.
Okay,
If that saves you, sorry.
so, a clerk or, we can discuss it later, it doesn't really
Yeah,
matter.
TBD.
All right, so I'm sorry, you were saying, John?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Off my train of thought. So we had made her, at that time, I think we went to the, currently put her on hourly, and she's supposed to be 40 hours a week.
I believe she's always been hourly though.
I think so.
Because it
Yeah,
was changed, Mary's was, and when
Yeah.
when Mary left, the new position was advertised as hourly and stayed hourly, her hours had increased.
And then her hours increased. And so now,
I don't remember why.
And there was, I've read lots of minutes, there's just not enough detail to know why they went back. There's nothing explaining why they went from salary to hourly again. I think at some point Mary had been hourly and went to salary, and she became not the secretary, but the administrative assistant. And so then, I don't know, maybe their thought process was we're starting with somebody new, we'll move them back and go with it from there. So then the suggestion was to change the hours back to 35, from 40 to 35 hours a week, and the position changed to salary instead of hourly. And that is where we are today.
And she's agreed that that's,
You had asked her to take some time to think about that salary.
and have we heard back
She was-
officially?
It's not, it was, right, again, it wasn't what she had asked for, but she is comfortable with that.
Okay.
I mean, that wasn't her suggestion, the
Right,
salary,
but,
but she wasn't opposed to it. She was originally opposed to it.
okay,
She's not. She's comfortable with that change if that's what we choose.
okay, so then the point of clarification is, so is she requesting to stay hourly and to go to 35, but will take salary if that's her
Yes.
second choice?
Yes. Well, that was when we went, our discussion ended with 35 hours a week salary was the last proposal.
And she
Or
was
discussion
going to
point.
think about it, I believe.
Yes, and she thought about it.
And she thought about it,
Yes, you
and
were concerned that she would not want that, and she was okay with that. So again, it's at the same salary,
Right.
I'm the one who doesn't want it
I
because
know. because you think,
I think when you go to salary, you have a tendency to get the wrong end of the stick there a lot of times. And my advice to everybody is never take salary if you can take hourly. Which
Well-
is why, if she wants to go salary, I'm fine with it. If she's heard both sides of the story, as long as she's
she did,
comfortable
but
with it, then.
the argument was that the salary, when you broke it down to an hourly rate, she was asking for more. more per hour in 35 hours than in 40.
She was asking for her current, what she's been making currently
Yes,
and for 40 hours.
to make it 35, which would make her hourly rate go, if we leave it hourly, it makes her hourly rate go up.
Makes her hourly rate go up, which I don't have a problem with that. What I have the problem with is, if 2 years from now, we have 3 different people sitting at this table, and they're saying, we need you to do a lot more work, and you're getting your salary, what's your problem? That's what I hate about salaries in the first place.
And what I think she communicated to us though was that she already was getting the short end of the stick being hourly, in that she was not reporting all of her hours because she didn't want to run up, right? So I think we have to consider like the fairness of what the initial request was, and
The basis for the request in the first place was to make more per hour.
right. So I don't know.
Assuming that she walks out the door at 35 hours, in the middle of one of our meetings, say, oh, my 35 hours is out, and she walks out the door, then she comes out ahead. But then we won't have anybody to finish the minutes.
John, that
Okay,
doesn't
since
happen. And we
you
talked
brought it
about
up, if she was not reporting extra hours that she was putting in, that's wrong, simply that. And she should have been reporting those hours, and she should have been being paid for them. Now, I don't see that we're gonna cut her hours and pay her a salary, okay, so she knows how much she's gonna be making. Does that mean she is going to cut off at 35 hours a week, and she's gonna walk out the door right then?
No.
And that
Not if
means
she's on if she's salaried, no. Plus, we also discussed that if she did more, if she were, in order to get her 35 hours, one day might be more hours than the next. So that.
Well, yeah, that's our
Right,
flex
so she's not,
time, you know,
so
that's-
she's not gonna leave in the middle of a meeting.
Right. Which is how every salaried position, like everywhere, works. Is that if one day, if you're working 2 or 3 extra hours one day, then you come in a little bit later tomorrow if you can.
No,
Like
that's how every salary position should work.
Right.
But how it very often works, where I've seen, is boss got you now. He can, I'm sorry, you gotta work extra today, you gotta work extra tomorrow, you gotta work extra every day this week. We'll give you some time, we'll give you a day off, someday down the road, and you're still getting paid the same. But anyway, if she's comfortable with it, like I said, I go along with it if she's comfortable with it.
Again, we have to be comfortable with the fact that it would, if it's salary, it's salary, but it breaks down to an hourly rate. And it would be more per hour.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
And again, I say, when we discuss the same thing, going back to the revenue collector position, are we okay with that across the board? Because these are just 2 people coming to us asking for more. Are we prepared, and can we sustain that across the board? You ask for a bigger picture, this is what it all looks like. Today, it's the office manager, it's the revenue collector, and tomorrow it's 3 or 4 other positions. Can we sustain those? We didn't budget for any of them. The only difference in this fiscal year is this wouldn't change. We'd be losing hours in a week, but the dollars wouldn't change, but it is essentially more money.
Well,
Yes.
she-
I just have to ask, because I'm totally
Okay.
confused. If she's having a hard time now, she's working more than 40 hours but not putting her hours down because she doesn't want to run up a big bill, how in God's name is she going to get it done in
Well,
45 hours?
Because when we left this discussion, we were ready to go forward with the town hall assistant position, which would take work, non-confidential work off of her load, which would help.
which we expect we still would have some of that time. so.
I would still anticipate that to be true.
Yeah, but Robin is the one most affected by it, and like I said, if she's comfortable
But-
with it, I'll go with it.
So the salaried hourly, okay, if she's comfortable, but we have to keep thinking about it in position, not necessarily just person. Because that is going to stay, that number's gonna stay there, and it's not going anywhere. We're setting a precedent, and can we afford to continue to do that? There isn't a person here who I don't value, and they do incredible work, and they're very specialized in what they do. We just don't have unlimited funds. The residents would, I think, agree with that. You know, that's where it's coming from. This is the downside to working in the public sector as opposed to the private sector. You know, we take a look at all of the salaries we have here. Are they where we'd like them to be? I would say no. Can we afford to increase them all to where they should be? I would say no. And I think the Board of Finance would say no as well. So some of the concern and why you asked for some of this was we can't take them one at a time. We have to look at the bigger picture.
Right, so what's considered full-time in the bigger picture?
35 hours a week is
Right.
full-time. Right now, the only people who are full-time, the office manager, the business manager, the public works director,
Mhm.
the human services, and parks and rec. The payroll coordinator and the account analyst are full-time. They're 40 hours a week. That's it.
They're 40?
They're 40, in the business office, they're 40 hours a week. And the human service director and parks and rec are 35 hours a week. Public works is 40, 42, depending on the time of year. And the office manager currently is 40 hours. The town clerk, although it appears she's full-time, is technically part-time at 30 hours a week.
30?
30 hours.
So where do we go from here?
We have to make a decision.
We haven't, we need it, I think here we would probably need a motion.
Who's prepared? I see she's, again, if we leave it as an hourly position and drop it from 40 to 35 hours a week, the request was the hour, I really tough time with that word today, the hourly be increased so that the salary, the bottom line does not change.
Well, do we want to do it now, or do we want to wait for a meeting at which she will be present? You know, that was what I thought would be, have her here to give her her final answer tonight.
Yeah, because I have at least one more clarification question that I would like to ask her directly.
So we'll put this off one more. Yeah, the other thing we can do is look at it in our budget and leave it where it is for this fiscal year.
Say that again?
Leave it where it is for this fiscal year, and at budget time, look forward to that.
And
if
that
you
might
wanna
make
wait,
the most sense.
if you want to wait to discuss it, we'll put it off to the next.
We'll put it at our next meeting.
All right, in your packet is a draft of the Public Works Director job description. I didn't get anything from either of you.
I gave my feedback at the last meeting.
Making sure you didn't send something that we didn't receive or I didn't see.
No, seems to work. Generally, be acquired with a bachelor's degree, okay, the way that's written, I'm
Right.
satisfied with that. So,
All right, so to move on this.
Make a motion to accept the Town of Wellington Director of Public Works job description.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. So we'll start working on an interview panel, of which I will ask the both of you to participate in.
Of which you will undoubtedly know my answer on.
This is a big one. This is, so, we'll see. There's no other business except to adjourn this meeting.
I have some business. Is this appropriate?
Well, there was no present to speak on the agenda because we have to adjourn to
There was
a
no
meeting out
old
of town.
business on the agenda too,
That
even
is
though
correct.
there's old business.
That is correct, because we weren't prepared.
Well, let me just ask a simple question. Has the issue of my request to connect to the water line been forwarded to the town attorney?
Yes, we are looking at that, and I've spoken with someone at Department of Public Health as well, so we are gathering all the information.
Has it been forwarded to the town attorney?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so I move to adjourn to the public hearing at the Ashford Town Hall.
Second.